Colin Baker, the Sixth Doctor. You've got good sense. Keep listening.
Hello, this is Fraser Hines, and you're listening to the Who Storian.
Hi, this is Yi Ji Cho. I played Chang Li in the Doctor Who TV movie, and you're listening to the Who Storian.
You will begin!
To the last Whostorian Winterly of the season. I began this run of podcasts during the pandemic with vintage audio from 2014 of my little brother Barry, and I'm going to end it on Mother's Day with my mother. Hi, Mom.
Hi there.
How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing well.
Geraldine Ryan Lush, writer, artist, entrepreneur, all that good stuff. Let's talk about... Well, actually, let's begin, because people who have listened to the podcast on the regular Whostorian feed, they've heard me reference you, but they don't know you because you've never been on that show. So this is a chance for you to, get to know them and they can get to know you. So let's begin with, when I was growing up, you had, I think it was... about 86, 87 that you actually kind of started gearing up doing writing? Was that about the right time?
Yes, that was around the right time, actually. We had just moved to our new home on Jeffers Drive.
Mount Pearl, yeah.
From Ash Place, yeah. That's around that time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And what started you with the idea of wanting to do your own writing career, beginning that? That was a heck of a thing back in the day. It was just... You went full force into it.
Yes, I did, and I was quite surprised by how active I became in it. Things happened pretty fast. I started getting published really fast, and certainly a lot quicker than I thought. And I guess it was, I don't know, I guess that's what spurred me on. I became very encouraged, and I became very determined.
Yeah.
Nothing was going to deter me. Once I started getting published, like I said, I just went full speed ahead. And I'm not saying I didn't get rejection letters, like every writer gets rejection letters, but I think probably, I had a kind of faith in myself that went beyond, any rejection letters. I knew I had something, and I knew that if I kept persevering, I would see it come to fruition, and it did. Not that it wasn't work now, it was certainly work, but...
I want to point out
enjoyable work.
I want to point out normally, when it comes to the Whostorians that I do with Steve, we generally don't drink. However, Mom and I are enjoying a fine cup of coffee. Mom's got my Doctor Who mug that she's drinking out of. I had to point out that...
very nice colors, too.
Yeah. I had to point out that when you actually fill that mug with hot liquid, it actually dematerializes the TARDIS, which is fantastic. And I'm drinking out of a TSN mug. That's a story of its own self, the TSN mug.
Yeah, they're quite impressive, actually.
Yeah, nice mug.
In different ways.
Yeah, nice mug, for sure. So, yeah, when you started off, like when I was growing up, and doing my own thing, coming and going, going to Doctor Who things, I can remember, you would have, different areas of the house that would be, your writing area. And that would, migrate from time to time.
No, certainly.
Sometimes it would be in the basement, sometimes it would be upstairs. There was, it was no rhyme or reason. There was times that And I remember there was one story we were talking about before I hit record of the day you got the electric typewriter. This is a while back before the internet, so this electric typewriter was like this big deal, right? It was
indeed.
The first piece of tech.
Oh my goodness, it was great. Yeah. Yes, I actually had those little typewriters before that. You could get them fairly cheap at the time too, and you used cartridges in them.
Yeah.
And I had gone through 3 or 4 of those. So I think the electric typewriter was the precursor to the next step up was the computer.
Like word processors and stuff.
Oh my goodness, wasn't that fascinating? So
yeah.
It was great.
I remember we went to, when talking about the electric typewriter, that's the one that I had to remind you, the first time you turned it on, and it was like an inkjet thing, and you put in the paper, and it just started automatically typing.
Yes,
welcome to this, and I was like, what's going on with this, man? Like, this thing is like, it's artificial intelligence or something.
That's right.
And that was considered cutting edge back then.
Oh, that was space age.
That was space age stuff. But yeah, you actually got a 286 computer. I remember going with you and our mutual friend Steve Windsor.
386?
It might, yeah, maybe
386.
Yeah, maybe it was 386. I'd have to ask Steve, but I remember you were talking about, for my writing career, I want to get this computer. And, of course, I wanted one so I could play games on it. So I said, well, let's go to, I think we went to Sears.
Yes, Sears in the Village.
Sears in the Village Mall, which doesn't even exist anymore.
No.
And I said, we're going to have to get my buddy Steve Windsor, who, obviously you knew well, that I grew up with. We'll get Steve to come with us and give us, the thumbs up, because he's, a technical kind of geek. So, it was funny, because when we went in, the young fella that was going to sell us the computer didn't really know what the computer was all about, so Steve was asking him questions like, well, what's the CPU unit, or what's the RAM, or what's this? And he was like, I don't actually know. So, finally, we had to be like, Steve, is this a good computer? Is this going to do what we need it to do? And Steve is like, oh, yes, it's going to be fine. So, we got it. And I remember you were an early adapter to, the Notepad programs, and Professional Write was one of your...
Write.
You still talk about Professional Write.
Oh, I hated to give that up. That was a comfort zone for me. And
you would still say Professional Write. If you could still get it, you'd use that, wouldn't you?
Well, it was. I'm not so sure if I use it now, though, but it was for years something I was very comfortable with.
So what do you use now when you're doing writing? What's the go-to for... do you have notepads, you jot stuff down for ideas, or?
Well, when I'm writing something new now, I've always done that. I do everything in handwriting. I write whole books in handwriting. I buy. Yes, my first drafts are in handwriting.
Wow. Okay.
I got this whole series of notebooks. Well, when we were going to school, we used to call them scribblers.
Right,
so,
yeah.
So, of course, they look a lot fancier now, but I got a stack of those, and I'll use them for the whole first draft of a new book. And I will keep all the information pertaining to the particular work that I'm doing within the same notebook, so for easy...
Like a hard copy of it.
Easy access and easy... And it's only when the first draft is done that I will transfer everything to the computer.
Wow, okay.
And that's been the case for all those books you see there on the table, those novels. That's how they were written and produced. I use WordPad a lot. I'm just getting into OpenOffice now. I'm getting accustomed. I found it a little bit...
that can be tricky.
Yeah, a bit tricky, but I'm getting okay with it now.
Yeah. And I mean, the whole process of it now, you talked before about rejection letters and stuff, it's such an open field now, you know what I mean? You can do so much more, and you have so much access in the world to different publishers and different outlets and things, you're not limited anymore to what you can do. You can do anything anywhere, you know what I mean? Your books are available worldwide now. It's something else.
Oh yes, it's a whole new world for writing and publishing, for sure, And you haven't got to worry about somebody not knowing about your books, because they're accessible everywhere, all over the world, via the wonderful world of the internet and
social media.
That's what I'm I'm becoming a friend of more and more as time goes by, and as I adapt more and more to the different vehicles available on the internet, I'm becoming quite comfortable, and in time I'll have mastered the beast, as they say.
Yeah. Is there any particular social media you prefer? Do you like Twitter more so than Facebook, or like what is it like for you as a writer? What is the one that is your go-to, do you think?
Well, you know, like a lot of people, I was into Facebook a lot for
Right. Yeah.
for you know, talking about work, etc. And but I got to like Twitter after a while.
Because of me.
Yes,
like
because
Twitter.
of you.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
do like Twitter a lot now.
Yeah.
Having said that, I use both interchangeably, you know, because they got different audiences. I mean, well, Instagram for one thing, I'm not really into that one yet. I may get there, but I'm not really. I don't post on that very much because I think they're for much younger audience.
Yeah, seems like it.
I'm mostly into Twitter and Facebook and YouTube. I have a new channel on YouTube called Deanie Dishes, which is it deals with my work and my books and my readings and talking about the books and my writing career, etc. And anything else I've even thought about after a while I may morph into talking about fashion and things like that, you know. Just sort of make it really more diverse, and because
And singing too. You've done some singing videos.
well, I have done singing videos.
Which got a lot of hits, man.
Yes, they did.
They get a lot of hits, man. So I put that up was you singing, and I put it up under my account, and it got, you know, like 3 times the amount of views that anything I've ever done myself has gotten on that particular
Well,
channel.
yes, I used to enjoy going, you know, doing some performing at some of the venues, heritage venues, etc. And then, of course, the pandemic cut in, and
That kind of curtailed everything.
yes, and as well, I'm more involved in my writing career now, and I don't have the time to be singing as much as I did it before. Kind of a break from my writing and stuff like that. It was fun, you know. And,
Yeah.
but having said that, if I were to do it over again, I probably would have cut some CDs probably 20,
Yeah.
30 years ago.
Well, now you can do
I
like,
don't know about now, but
Hey, listen,
no, it's never too
you
late.
know, listen, you happen to be related to an audio master in myself, so I'm sure that one of these days we can get a sound studio going and get some songs out there. Who
You
knows,
never
right?
know. That's
You never
the
know, right?
future as well.
That's the wonderful thing about the internet. You know, it's such a democratized process.
That's
You know.
for sure, yeah.
I can tell you like a story. You remember Mrs. Webb?
Yes.
Yeah, my teacher in grade 2, I think it was, or 3. Is that
Grade
grade
two.
2? Grade
Grade
2? Okay. Do you remember I told a story one time? I don't know if you knew this. I told a story about seeing a UFO when we were living on Ash Place. And I was only like, I don't know, however old he would be in grade 2.
7.
And of course, it was like, you know, a plane flying overhead, and I had, you know, I had the upper bedroom with my brother Barry, and you know, it was just a plane, you know. So of course, in my 7-year-old imaginary mind, I had that turned into this whole, like, you know, adventures of a UFO. So I told Mrs. Webb that story, and it was story time. Like back then, they would have people would get up and do story times. And I got up and told the story, and the whole class thought it was hilarious and great. And that was like the first time I did anything like public speaking related. But growing up with you didn't have any. A lot of people have like they're shy in public, and they don't, you know, they're shy and retiring in public. They don't necessarily have a grasp, or they don't have, you know, they're anxious about speaking in public. But you never were. Like every time you did something, whether it be local media or national media, it was a natural thing with you.
I think when my very first book was published, Jeremy Jekyll's Eight Freckles, I kind of had a, you know, I kind of just froze at the launch, right? I got up there and I froze I really did, and I did read from some of it, but I was a little, you know, I got a bit of a stage fright, and I don't know why. I just looked at all these people, and it was a big crowd there.
Yeah.
And when my second book came out, Here's on Bears, all of a sudden I got this whole new confidence, and I don't know what did it. Maybe it was success brought it on or something.
Could be, yeah.
But and then when I did my first seminar for writing for children at School for the Deaf, I don't know. I just developed a whole new confidence, and I just got more confident along the way. And now I'm not the least bit. I can go anywhere now and speak. And thankfully, I've never had to partake of communication classes or anything like that. How to, it's just I enjoy it actually.
Yeah. That was a period, you're talking about Jeremy Jekylls and the Hares on Bears, your early books. That was a period where you were doing more children's books, and you branched out after the fact. What was the idea you had to transition away from that? Did you not want to be sort of pigeonholed, or did you just think, okay, I've done this genre, I want to try something in a different genre?
Not really. I didn't really put a lot of thought into it like that. I just did what hit me, If something hit me and I liked the idea of it, and I said, well, I'll enjoy reading about that. I would be inspired to do a certain story or a certain theme, or I could relate to it in some way, or something in my subconscious brought it on, or whatever.
Is it because, you had young sons at the time that you were, you thought to yourself, children's books would be a good starting point?
Possibly, I did like children's literature a lot, and I certainly made use of children's literature. You and Barry were younger and in primary grades, and don't forget I was a teacher as well.
Exactly,
so
yeah.
I had been teaching primary grades and elementary grades, and they were all influences as well, so it has something to do with that, yes, because my books are used widely in schools and the libraries and so on, and that certainly was a direct reason, I guess, I got into it. But I also reviewed books for different publications, different literary publications. I was a reviewer for some of them. So I had a knowledge as well, all right, that went into it, And plus I was a voracious reader, as you know. And
that's how I became a voracious reader, because,
certainly.
Growing up with you were reading to me at a young age.
Barry as well. Barry loved books too.
Oh, Barry as well, yeah. I've always acknowledged and credited you with imagination and my, interest in broadcasting and interest in, doing books and just creative expression. I started because you were encouraging me when I started. I was 12 years old and I was doing a science fiction story in a local magazine.
Terror of the Space Demon.
Terror of the Space Demon, which you still have.
Mayday, we're under attack.
I'm going to do that as an audio.
I still remember the opening lines of that story.
I'm going to do that as an audio one of these days. I really am.
I have a copy of it home.
I know, and that's why I'm going to do it as an audio, because you kept everything. You kept, what's that Scamp story that I did? Remember that? I drew it and illustrated it and
That's
stuff?
That's right. I have that one too.
What was I, 9 years old or something?
I have things in my file cabinet that would blow you away.
Oh yeah, you do. Yeah. Yeah, you definitely do. Long before everybody else thought of the value of older content, you definitely did, for sure. and just childhood content and stuff. Stuff that now I'm at an age where it's nostalgic to me, right?
That's right.
So, there's always the value there. Once again, you moved on from doing children's books, and you had great success, like you said, with the children's books.
I did.
So you could have decided to keep doing in books in that realm, but you wanted to branch out. Did you want to challenge yourself as a writer, or what was the impetus behind all of that?
Oh gosh, I don't know really. I did write a book of poetry, which I was a poet as well. I always liked writing poetry, so I did a collection of poetry for college age and university. And then I started writing. I picked up where I left off from the Gravel Pig Kids, which went through on how many titles? Going back to the 80s is when I started that book in the beginning. So that went through several drafts and several revisions, and I got a lot of interest in it from the very beginning from national publishers. Keep writing it. This is really I love the voice in this story and things like that, and the characters so well drawn and things like that.
Yeah, you got a lot of positive feedback.
Yeah, I did. So over the years, sure, I went through periods where I wasn't working at it, but I always went back to it. And it just evolved into the title into the book that it is today, after several titles and so on, different. I was asked to change a few things, but I was pretty stubborn too. I am stubborn in that way, and
that's where I get it from.
If I don't think that changing something is going to improve the book, I'm not going to do it, or improve what I'm trying to say in the book, what I'm trying to get across. I say, I'm sorry, I'm not going to do this, and that's it. It just doesn't sit well with me. So there are a lot of people who probably wouldn't agree with me, but that's the whole thing with having faith in your work, right?
Right.
You know your work best, and that's why it pays to, in order to have that sense of expertise in your own work and faith in your work, you have to have been an avid reader all your life, where you know good literature from day one. You grew up with it, you read the classics, which I did when I was growing up. And you go through life experiences too, where you remember things, maybe in your subconscious, but you still remember, they're there. And you feel a sense of instinct about your work, right? And you know if it's going to work or not. And because sometimes those same editors, let's face it, I don't know, what kind of response this will get, but I'm going to say it anyway. Sometimes
say what you want, Mom.
Sometimes those same editors, they could be wrong. Yeah. And they've been proven wrong. So,
what was the story you told me once when I was doing early poetry, nature type of poetry?
Right, yeah.
And a lot of that came from, I had read Thoreau, Henry David Thoreau, on Golden Pond and that stuff, and Walt Whitman. And it was you that told me, Walt Whitman didn't even get published until he was in, his 70s or something, and now he's considered, a seminal poet of the ages.
You'd be amazed at how many famous literary people that were self-published to start with.
Yeah. There's also the story of...
Now, I started off with traditional publishing, I'm just making a point that you have to have faith in your work. You have to be true to yourself.
Yeah.
And thankfully I was, and it worked out, because that book won the Canada Book Award last summer, so same book.
Exactly, yeah.
So, and it's got excellent reviews.
Yeah, and I'm going to get to those reviews, but it's the same story of, as a big Elvis fan, I had read, Elvis got up in front of, a class of people when he was 15 years old and started singing, and a teacher said, you're not the best, you should stick to your day job. And, you're telling a 16-year-old Elvis Presley that he's got no future as a singer. So, sometimes critics don't necessarily look past their own nose.
And speaking of critic, I have never been part of a writer's group, and I have never taken courses in how to write.
Yeah, because you feel it's more natural for you.
Never. I didn't feel comfortable. I didn't even try any of it. I just wrote. Yeah. I went from reading on how many books, thousands I guess.
Yeah.
I went from that, teaching school, raising children. I went from all that to just sitting down and writing. And that's what I did. I didn't ever take any kind of courses. And because everybody is different, everybody gains something from taking courses. But I don't think you can be taught how to write.
You might be taught sentence structure and stuff like that, but the actual talent, the raw talent has to be.
Yes, but you see, the mechanics of writing, this is where all the reading you do comes in. You learn this subconsciously. Structure and voice and dialogue and sensory and to bring all this into your writing. This is what comes naturally to you if you're a lifelong reader. And as far as storytelling is concerned, I credit this British author, Catherine Cookson.
Oh, okay.
She was a regional British author. And I read, I can't count the number of books by that author that I've read. She fascinated me from day one. The very first book I read by her was A Dwelling Place. And I just was addicted to her books. To me, she's one of the best storytellers that I've ever encountered. And I credit her books with engendering in me, I don't know if we call it a gift or a way of telling a story. And she did me more benefits. She helped me more in my writing, in my storytelling technique than any course I could have taken.
Just by reading
her books alone. And just the way it is. That's why I found helped me, was reading. I wasn't aware of it, of course, when I was reading, you know, but when I started writing, I realized after a while, you know, I could see shades of her, like the way she handles plot and character and the pace of a story. I could see how shades of her, of the experiences of reading her works that came through in my writing, especially in The Seashell's Lament.
Right.
And now in the Gravel Pit Kids, that was a first-person narrative. That's a diary form, which I use in my Malcolm books as well. So I don't know where I could credit that. I mean, I did read a lot of authors that wrote in that way, in that style, you know. But the point I'm making is that you don't need to take writing courses. I know I didn't.
No, you really didn't.
No.
In fact, when you began, because I would go to a couple of the events with you, like the local events and stuff, and the new kid on the block, like people would be like, "Who are you? Like, where did you come from?" Because and you had a bunch of stuff under your belt at that point in time, and I think there is a tendency, and there you know, to tie that into podcasting. When myself and Steve started podcasting, we didn't know what the hell we were doing. But we learned as we went. We didn't take seminars, and we didn't read facts, you know, frequently asked questions. And yes, Steve did on a technical level, because there's obviously technical requirements. But, I mean, the earliest podcasts we did, now looking back and listening to them back again, they're obviously rough, but the passion is there, the same passion 10 years later. So, when you get good at something and you got a platform, whether it be podcasting, audio, or books, if you're good at it, you know you're good at it,
exactly.
And you're confident in your own abilities, that's what matters more than anything else.
Exactly.
You know, it really does. And I mean, I've had an awful lot of fun doing podcasting for 10 years, and we're not the most polished podcast, but we have a lot of fun doing it, and that's what it comes down to. You can have the most technical book in the world that has every sentence structure perfect, and every, everything is the way that the editors want it, and whatever changes that they've put into it, and they might end up diluting it and watering it down and ruining the whole narrative of that book, So you stuck to your guns. I don't think there was ever a time you didn't stick to your guns when it came to, if you got feedback that said, well, we like this, but please change this, you'd say, no. I'll submit this elsewhere.
Not gonna happen.
And it's worked out, obviously, because you've had a career for 30 years. It's something else. The Malcolm books, that was one little boy throughout, how many books was that? That was a series of books.
3.
Three different books so far.
Well, I plan on putting out more down the road, because I actually found some that, some scripts too I had written years ago. They were actually really good, so there'll be more of those coming out as well.
And what is it about that character that draws you back to it? Is that you want to find out what he's up to lately?
Yeah, he's quite a little, he's brave and bold, and he does his own thing and so on like that. So, he kind of sticks in my head. I kind of like him. So. And other kids like him too. So any kind of school visits I've done and so on, and readings, I always get feedback on Malcolm. Hey, what's up? He likes to do different things, and he likes to. He's got a soft heart, but he's always getting in trouble for his soft heart. He's cute and he's real. He's a real life every town guy.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
so that's the appeal of him.
Relatable, yeah.
Relatable. Exactly.
So the Gravel Pit Kids, man, would you say this is the one? Because you said you've gone through so many revisions and working on this for so long. This is the book that, you're obviously proud of all your work, but this is the book that you kept going back to, kept returning to. Mm-hmm. What was the original title? I'm trying to remember the original title.
Oh my
God. The People
Tree.
The People Tree.
Now, really and truly, that is the very first title that book ever had. It was the maple in the backyard, and all the leaves on it and everything. And it just stuck in my mind, the People Tree, and you know, but I think...
And I remember I strongly advocated for that because I thought it was a fantastic title. And then when you got to the Gravel Pit Kids, I went, geez, that's a pretty good title too.
Yeah,
so I was conflicted, you know.
Yeah, I went through Mullins and Me, and I went
Mullins and Me was another one, yeah.
And Slapshot and the Kid, and
that one was a bit,
titles, right? And anyway, I settled on that one.
That was a very Canadian title, Slapshot and the Kid.
Yes, it was.
People would think it's about Don Cherry or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, the Gravel Pit Kids, I'm just going to read the summary in the back here. David Fuller's only best friend, Kenny Finney, is a smelly outcast who can't read or write. He steals. He lives in a gravel pit trailer home, and he gets caught by the cops all the time. But he plays the best games of street hockey ever, and would give you his heart if he could. One day, David's life changes. Then he says goodbye to Kenny Finney, and the carefree life he's known. His parents are moving him to a better life, and want him away from the unsuitable Finneys. Then tragedy strikes. Kenny's house out in Brookings burns down, and most of his family are dead. No one knows where Kenny is, and no one cares. Until a determined 12-year-old boy, with pain and hope in his heart, takes it upon himself to travel hundreds of miles alone, the street kid nobody wanted, and whose tragic plight awakens a startling awareness. So that's pretty poignant, man.
Thank you.
And you've mentioned the awards you've gotten for this one. The reader's favorite 5-star award. Let's talk about that first. So the Gravel Pit Kids is most highly recommended by Jack Magnus for Reader's Favorite, which is the Reader's Favorite, received the Honoring Excellence Award for Reviewing, and is a member of the National Book Critics Circle, endorsed by the American Library Association. So this one has obviously a far reach, when it comes to awards.
Yes.
And this is one of the Canada Book Awards ones, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
So, I mean, this is a heck of a story, and obviously it's a relatable story. If you have to fit it into a genre, technically it's young adult, but, I mean, there's people who are obviously older who have read this, and it relates to their childhood.
He points out the values in it, the friendship and...
Universal themes.
It's a universal theme.
Yeah.
So...
definitely universal themes. And I mean, I think when you write about universal themes that are so relatable to everybody, like everybody has difficulties in their childhood, everybody has insecurities, and they have friends they've lost contact with, friends whose
friends that are not approved by their parents.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Which is what...
Classism, for sure,
That's the societal thing, right?
Elitism and the notion of, the wrong side of the tracks,
exactly.
For sure, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, I mean, this is,
That's the crux of that novel, actually.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just Atlantic Books Today. That's a very well-known review outlet. Mm-hmm. They quote, a beautifully written story of a friendship between two preteen boys in a small Newfoundland town. The setting is well enough rendered that it remains an important presence throughout. The boys' bond is strong enough to endure significant differences in class and circumstance and the disapproving eyes of surrounding adults. So, yeah, that's, like you said, that's the crux of the story. Mm-hmm. So, this edition, published 2020, as I look at it. I will, of course, go through all of the show notes and make sure that everything is ready and put out there for people to pick this up however they wish to pick it up. Let's move on to the next book, Mom. This one's a different one. The Seashell's Lament, Mom. Let's talk about The Seashell's Lament. Here's the summary. On a rain-soaked, wind-swept pre-Christmas night in St. John's, Newfoundland, prim and proper teacher Jacqueline O'Reilly is hit by a sudden, reckless urge to go bar hopping. What she finds in a dingy harbourfront pub, where a foreign shipwrecked shrimp fisherman is sojourning, will forever alter the course of the rest of her life. Alexander Buxfa, Sasha, is married, can hardly speak a word of English, and only in port long enough for his battered ship to be seaworthy again. What follows is the collision catalyst for tragic, impossible chemistry, as these two unlikely lovers from opposite ends of the world find that one can't live without the other. Then the unthinkable happens. Jackie gets a goodbye letter with no return address. 8 bitter years pass where one doesn't know anything of the other, until a work trip to Europe, where amazingly she is confronted by the fly-by-night sailor who broke her heart so long ago, and is torched into the very depths of her unforgiving soul. A searing saga of the emotional twists of fate that leave even the most cynical believing in the power of eternal love. So that is a completely different genre, and it is a departure, to say the least.
I was intrigued by. Well, I'm always intrigued by the history of Newfoundland and the conflict between the fishermen here and you know,
The maritime culture.
yes, because it's a big livelihood here, and there was conflict over centuries of fishing on the offshore, past out the offshore, past the 200-mile limit, and way out in the ocean,
Right.
where so many foreign trawlers and foreign ships of centuries were coming to
Oh, yeah.
to partake of the bounty of fish here, and of course that caused a lot of tensions between them and the locals.
Territorial wars.
Territorial, yes, and they were always stigmatized and so on, and
And they're feeding their family like everybody
yes,
else was.
they came here from other countries and endured hard times and so on, and there was sometimes there was friendships built up between some of them and some of the local people,
Yeah.
local women for one thing,
Right.
and that kind of, I said, well, that would be a good theme to explore in a modern vein, right?
Yeah.
The whole thing about a man meeting a local woman, and in the times of the moratorium, following the Cobb moratorium,
Right.
they started coming here because it was a moratorium on the cod, so therefore there weren't as much cod to eat the shrimp.
Right.
So the shrimp were in better supply, which
Right.
is what's explained in the beginning of the book. So they all came here, and there was that many of them coming here. There was a lot of tensions and so on. And it so happens that during this period, this guy comes here from the Baltic states, and he meets up with this woman downtown at an old, dusty old pub down Water Street.
Yeah.
And he was only here for a short time because his ship was in a storm, and they meet and fall in love. So it's a love story, but it's also a story of
Culture clash.
culture clashes, yes, and stigma and all that. And it was compared to Dr. Zhivago, actually.
Was it really?
Yes.
Jeez. Okay.
So
All right.
that got the Canada Book Awards well last summer.
Yes, yeah, you got 4 overall?
I got 4 Canada Book Awards for last summer for the Gravel Pit Kids, The Seashells Lament, and 2 more children's books. The Goodbye Wars, which is a rhyming story about the local, the local lore of chasing away wars. So it was made into a funny, cute rhyming story called The Goodbye Wars. So, and the last one was Mumps Mania, a runaway virus tale, which was a virus
Which
tale.
became obviously very relevant during the
Yes.
during the pandemic.
Yes, exactly. So that won the Canada Book Award as well.
And I think that, that contributed to the understanding of children when it came to the pandemic, because
Yes.
it was very obviously pro-science and pro-medicine, and, it explained to children in a way children could relate to about, hey,
What do you
take care of
really
your
need
health,
to do, to get well?
Yeah.
You need to stay in bed.
Yeah.
The doctor came, he said real slow, if you want those mumps to go, you have to stay in bed, You do a better job than me, I'm sure.
You think so?
I'm going to get you to do an audio of that.
I'll do an
actually.
audio. Yeah, I'll do
Yeah.
an audio of that. I actually would love to do more audiobooks. I've been told I have a good audio voice.
You have to do that.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I've been told that.
Yes, you have to do audio.
Well, see, the problem is, as a Newfoundlander, I talk too fast is the problem. I have to, I have to calm down on the talking so fast, because that's just a natural speech pattern Newfoundlanders for the most part.
I don't know. I don't think you talk fast, though.
You don't think so?
No, I don't.
Wow, other people have said so.
And I don't think we have a real Newfie accent either, like some people.
No, but bear in mind that when people listen to this that are not from here, I've often said, when people have said you have a strong accent, I say you should hear other people around here. This is what I say. I have a pretty mild accent compared to a lot of people around here. So this is a big story and a big deal, Mom, because you harnessed supernatural elements in this book. And
You're talking about
I'm talking about 2 volumes. Haunted. Well, we'll start with the first one, obviously, but Haunted Towns: Ghost Stories of Newfoundland and Labrador, and the follow-up Haunted Towns Volume 2: More Ghost Stories of Newfoundland and Labrador. So, boy, this is the one that was an instant hit. I mean, the response was amazing.
Yes.
From those who responded, who obviously wish to remain anonymous. But when you compile this and began this process, I said to myself, like, that is a absolutely universal thing. I mean, obviously every culture has its own version of ghost stories, demons, supernatural events, unexplained phenomena. It's just obviously coached in different terms culturally. But boy, when this came out, this was something else, man. This really was something else. So I'm going to begin with the first one. And the pull quote from the back: in the picturesque towns of 500-year-old Newfoundland, a ghost story lurks around every corner, and hair-raising secrets as well. For example, did you know a busy industrial building in Pleasantville was once used as a World War II morgue and home to regular, terrifying, ghostly activity? And be careful of a used car. It may be occupied by a taxi driver who doesn't know he's dead. And who is the girl on the road in Maddox Cove who entices unsuspecting drivers to her aid and leaves them terrorized? From antics in Twillingate to crisis apparitions in London, England, to a skeptic Conception Bay police officer's trauma, the stories in this collection will baffle, bewilder, spook, and defy truth. But amazingly they are true, and delectably served up by one of Newfoundland's most prolific authors. Settle back, enjoy the ride. So, I'm telling you, man. I'm familiar with some of these stories, but they are something else. I think the one that I liked the most was The Girl on the Road. Like, that's one that is a bit creepy.
I had a lot of feedback and requests to do more modern day stories.
Yeah.
Paranormal happenings of the modern days. So that's what spurred on to write the second volume. But they're both selling like mad.
They are, yes. That's what I'm saying. Like, there's an awful lot of stories in the first collection, and
there's even more in the second.
Right, and they're completely, like in the first one, obviously, like, some are set here, but there's some that are obviously from away.
The one that got a lot of attention are the Soldier Ghosts of Pleasantville.
Yeah.
The Strange Premonition of Elizabeth Ryan.
Well, that's obviously...
That is
factors in their family.
Yes, it's a personal
that's a family
thing,
story.
So that is, and The Man on the Rock, what the police officer saw.
Another personal story.
My own grandfather.
Yeah.
My own grandfather's story.
Yeah, my great grandfather.
Crisis Apparitions is really, that's pretty. You really do wonder about some of the, what were the travelers of these spirits? I mean. And are they really sending messages to somebody that they love, that, like, the phone call from the other side and things like that? So you make you wonder. Like, I've never seen a ghost myself.
No, but like you
but
said,
I do believe there are entities out there, though. Like, you can't just dispute or dismiss things.
So much oral history.
Yeah.
But that's what it comes down to. Like, the oral history in your family, you had a foundation based on grandma, right? Like, you had, your grandfather had a traumatic experience happen to him, and he was a sober, policeman.
Yes.
Not one who was disposed to.
And his wife coming home from duty one night,
and he pretty much
that troubled him because he knew what he saw.
Right, of course.
And he knew there was just this man sitting on a rock, and he thought he was inebriated, and he was trying to get him home. And when he put his nightstick out, because the man wouldn't respond.
Right.
I'm telling you the story here now.
Yeah, but I've heard this story 100 times growing up. Yeah.
Yeah. But now it's not just personal stories here.
No, those are all
My family.
compilations of other
There's
people's stories.
compilations of all kinds of
Yeah.
experiences other people had. You know.
And people trusted you to tell the story.
Yes, they're. I was.
And when you
I was
started,
surprised by the reaction because I didn't. It was my first time putting out a collection of true ghost stories. I put out fiction, the fiction novels, Hannigan's Hand,
yeah,
which was the fictional account of a real life happening.
that's the thing. You had fictionalized
Yeah.
a real life story before,
Yes.
but this is the first time that you're compiling and telling stories based on submissions of other people.
Yes, yes.
And that is it's highly readable because of that.
Yes.
Because every couple of pages is a different story
Well,
in a
you
different
know,
setting.
I was surprised, to tell you the truth, that it took off like it did.
It really did, yeah.
Yeah,
It really
and,
did.
It inspired me, and I mean, I enjoy this stuff too. I
too,
enjoy
yeah.
ghost stories. I really do.
I know
really
you
enjoy
do.
ghost stories.
I
And,
know you do.
So it was. I really enjoyed writing it. I have to say that these collections of ghost stories, I didn't consider them real work because I just loved it. Now the other books I wrote, well, they were work.
Yeah, I mean, Gravel Pit
work.
Kids was 30
Yeah.
years in the making.
But these were really, enjoyable.
Yeah.
Really enjoyable to do. And,
So the second volume, Mom, when you got to the point of the second volume,
well, the second volume came as a result of the response of the first one.
oh yeah, yeah,
Right? So there's even more stories in the second one.
right. Now, what differs the second one from the first? Like, was it, did you factor in that, like you had said, the feedback was that people wanted, like, most, like, up-to-date modern
Yes,
stories?
the present day, so to speak, right?
Right, yeah.
Maybe in the last couple of decades or the last decade,
Right.
and like the stories in this, like Saint Pierre, for example, the
French Island.
Anyway, this couple goes to Saint Pierre, and back from the dead, the love rival of Saint Pierre. They go to Saint Pierre, for a weekend.
Saint Pierre, for those who don't know, being Saint Pierre
Saint Pierre, Miquelon,
in
French
Miquelon,
Islands.
or French Islands off the coast of Newfoundland.
The French Islands off the coast of Newfoundland, owned
Yeah.
by France, but
Yes.
geographically they're close to
Yeah,
Newfoundland.
yeah.
So people go over there for a weekend getaway and things like that.
Yeah, you've been there. I've never
A
been.
bit
I'd
of
love to
French
go.
culture, and
Yeah.
So this couple from here travels over there one weekend, and their friend they stayed in their friend's house that was built a long time ago, back in the 30s sometime, and it was built with materials from the Prohibition era,
Yeah.
and like boxes, crates
And
and
boats
so
that had
on.
come ashore, wasn't it?
Yes,
Yeah.
and crates that were left over from
Yeah.
when all the
When Al Capone
bootleggers
was
and these
smuggling
people
all of
were
his,
there.
smuggling all of his booze up here.
So
Yeah.
they were fascinated with that because here was a house that was built by all these materials, and they
Yeah.
were like blown away.
It's pretty cool, yeah.
About 3 o'clock in the morning, and she goes to the closet. She's walking towards the closet, and this form was there, and
Like a pinstripe suit,
yes,
and
yeah.
like a fedora and all that.
And she, of course, she got afraid and everything, and she knew it wasn't real. I mean,
Like a gangster look.
where did they come from? Where did they come from? There's no way in the world she could have seen them come in and so on.
Right.
So, first he was looking at her in kind of a grin, just smiling and a grin. And then all of a sudden his face changed into this real grimace, this evil, And anyway, I won't tell the story.
Yeah, read the book.
Read the book.
Read the book.
Because it's a true story. And what happened was based on a true happening.
Yeah.
A terrible happening, actually.
Yeah.
That happened.
Traumatic, by the sound of it.
Traumatic that happened during the Prohibition era.
Yeah.
A real true happening, right? So
Right.
that's one of the really, one of the fascinating stories in it. And
And the thing about it that with you,
there's
Mom,
there's a lot of, there's 40 odd stories in here. They're getting their money's worth for sure.
listen, you're my mother, so I'm biased, but I will say this. As somebody who has an interest in paranormal stuff and has read a lot of paranormal collections, one of the things I dislike is just a dry run-through of events.
Mm-hmm.
You, as a writer, you make all of them, you know how to tell a story. You make them, they're not just recounting facts, they're actually storytelling devices. And each story is a story. Like, it's an actual beginning, middle, and an end to a story. And you get to know the characters, obviously synonyms, but you get to know the characters in every story within a couple of, a few pages of a story. One of the reviews, which I will point out because it's actually really cool, it comes from Levi Curtis, the artistic director of the Grand Bank Regional Theatre, who says, I've been looking for the quintessential book of ghost stories of Newfoundland and Labrador. I highly recommend this spectral romp into the spooky unknown, which I thought was a great quote. I was like, that's a wonderful review right there. That guy has a way with words. Are you going to keep doing more of the ghost work? Because, it's... The demand is there.
This one only came out there January. So I'm only getting around to, I've done a lot of, not a lot, I guess, but I have done some marketing on it, and I have done some YouTube videos where I read from some of the stories and talk about.
I'll have links and all that. Don't worry.
Yeah, and but I'm giving it this time to jail before I compile another collection. I'm not saying what will be the last one. I'm not saying that, but I have to give time to jail and time to collect more and so on.
But it's a fun genre for you too.
Yes, it's a nice kind of change from other genres of writing. I really do enjoy those, and it's quite fun. I love doing the launches and so on. I had a launch plan. I was going to do a real launch, but of course the pandemic come down on that.
Well, the last launch that you did, that I attended, was fun. I liked that launch.
Oh, that was great.
Pictures from that launch.
I loved it. Yeah, that was really a great launch.
Great venue, great launch and stuff.
Yeah. And
so it's going to be fun once the pandemic has calmed down. It's going to be a lot of fun to get back to that stuff.
The movie Van Ghost, even movers. They're not immune to seeing a ghost, right?
No one's immune, I guess.
He's moving this woman and she got all this furniture and she says to him, can you get all of it in that one load? He says, well, I don't know, it'll cost you maybe not a truck, and she only has a certain amount of money, so please try and put it into the one load, so anyway, he gets onto the one load and saves her another truck, and when he gets to his own place, well, he's lifting up the hatch to
the hatch of the truck, the back of the truck,
his own truck, and because she had given him a set of coffee tables,
right? Because
he had been so good to her and so kind as to pack it in as such that she wouldn't have to pay another mover, or another truck, I should say, that she gave him this coffee table set as free, So he was kind of thinking, I don't know, I don't know what to do with that. Do I need it or whatever, He said, I guess I'll take it home anyway, and maybe I'll donate it, or maybe somebody will want it, or maybe I'll sell it, I don't know. So it was in his truck anyway. So he was lifting it out to bring it to his apartment because he had to use the truck the next day, and he wanted room in his truck.
Right.
So he sees something, right? So
connected to
that coffee table thing. This turned into a really horrific experience for this poor guy, right? Yeah. So I couldn't believe it when he emailed me with the story. I was astounded.
The connection there, people who have listened to me and have heard me talk, I wrote a book about your father, my grandfather, a World War II veteran, and I mentioned in that book that his mother had a premonition. That there was the disaster was befalling her son. That's one of the stories that you tell in your book, So there's a connection there, a family connection. Anybody who reads my book will pick up this strand over to your book.
That's all mentioned too.
That's all mentioned, So it's a family connection.
They're all
and speaking of which, Mom,
really intriguing, for sure.
Oh yeah, it really is. It really is. Speaking of family, it's Mother's Day. Mother's Day, what does it mean to you, and what did it mean to you growing up?
Mother's Day when I was growing up, I don't remember it as being celebrated like it is today.
It's more of an event now.
It's more of an event, yes. It was more of an event, for sure.
So
But Mother's Day can be celebrated in so many different ways. For example, what we're doing here today.
Right.
It's just little things, right?
Yeah.
Little things.
Spending time, for sure.
Little things are what makes people happy, if you ask me. I mean, it doesn't take much for
Well,
to be happy.
I've often said that one of the benefits of doing a podcast is making memories. Like, this is going to be a recording that I'm going to have for years and years and years. And like I said, like, to tie it all back to the first episode in this series, I used audio from 2014 to Barry. You know, and there have been people who messaged me who have been listening to me for years that said, I never heard your brother before. Like, that's great, you know, like, I get, you know, I get an insight into your relationship with your brother and stuff, because, I mean, Barry's not a Doctor Who fan. He's not a science fiction kind of guy, you know. We were talking about sports and hockey.
He's very sports and hockey.
Sports and hockey, right? You know, that's Barry. So, yeah, I always wanted to have you on the show, and I always wanted to get your perspective and a bit into your experience and history as a writer, and we're going to wrap it up now, Mom, because it's been about an hour, and that flew. It really did fly.
Yeah, it certainly did.
But, as I say, everything's going to be in the show notes if anybody wants to follow your work, follow your social media, purchase copies of your books in various formats, whether it be email or physical, or I should say e-books or physical books.
Oh, they're all in...
they're all in various
they're
formats.
all
in Amazon.
paperback and Kindle, yeah.
Now, you said before that during the pandemic, your books were getting more physical sales. People were really ordering them.
Yes, it's amazing.
Like right throughout North America. They were just
That's
getting
correct.
delivered throughout North America. Something
Amazing
else.
during a pandemic.
It is, yeah, it really is. Yeah, it really is. All right, Mom, happy Mother's Day 2021.
Well, thank you. I really enjoyed it.
It's a lot of fun. A lot of fun. I told you it was fun. It's a lot of fun, yeah.
Just imagine when you get all set up for your big...
Yeah, I'm working on that. I'm working on that.
Your big
reveal. My big channel.
Big reveal,
my big broadcasting
You're
studio.
taking off.
If I can get the cat to stay out of the frame, you know.
Well, she's really good.
She's been quiet,
Look at her. She's napping the whole time.
That's because the heat's on, see?
Goodness, she never made a sound once.
Yeah, she loves heat, man.
Good smoky. Good for you.
Man, cats love heat. The cat you had growing up sure used to love heat, didn't
Yes.
they? God. I can remember, I remember like when I was visiting Pop, like that, the cats would be in the old oven, in the old stove in the front of the furnace, they'd just be lying there, like it was a sauna to them, man.
Yeah, that's so true.
Anyway, Mom, again, it's all going to be in show notes. People will be able to check it out, and thanks very much. Much love. Glad to be able to have you on finally, and glad that people can get a chance to listen to us talk. And you've got a diverse range of books in different genres, different topics. There's something for everyone. That's the thing I was always able to say about you. You didn't stick to one genre and just drive it home. It was like, here's something for everyone and every taste.
Variety is the spice of life.
Variety is the spice of life. All right, so on behalf of my mom, happy Mother's Day to all moms out there. And you can catch more of me on the regular feed of The Historian at thehistorian.ca. And you can certainly catch more of my mother on all the social media links, which will be in show notes. I thank everybody for listening to the various episodes of The Historian Winterly this season, and I'll be back probably next winter with more shows. Take care, and I'll see you around the vortex.